Hello, everyone. Welcome in. I see a few people are starting to join. Hello. Alrighty, I'm going to give everyone about a minute or so to join. While we wait, I would like to thank you guys for hopping on with us today. I hope you take this next hour to sit back, relax. Hopefully, you have some lunch in front of you, maybe a snack, or hey, maybe you're like me and you are on your second cup of coffee today. Either way, we are so excited for you guys to join us. Alrighty, let's see. We have a few people joining. Okay, I'm gonna give it about 30 more seconds. Let's see. Okay. Alrighty, looks like a bulk of people just joined. All right, so today we're going to be going over a few housekeeping items. So everyone's mic and their camera will be muted for the webinar, but fear not, there is a live chat where you can ask all of your questions. All technical questions will be answered during the Q&A, and we really encourage you guys to answer questions. So feel free to answer. We're happy to ask them. And then without further ado, let's get this thing started. I would like to introduce our CEO, Jason Sheaffer. Hello, Jason. I see you there. Welcome.
Thank you, Chloe. Appreciate you pulling this together. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the client base here today. If you haven't interacted with me before, I've been with Crestwood for about a decade now. I've been working in the world of ERP for about 15 years. I've seen a lot of different systems, and I'm excited for the subject matter today. I know a lot of you who have been on GP for a long time are asking the question, what do we do now? Or do we have to do anything? And I hope to answer a lot of those questions today. And hopefully we can put together an informative webinar. As Chloe indicated, ask questions. We have the chat. We've got some experts on the line as well. We've got Michael, who's actually just recently implemented Business Central. And our hopes is to, again, bring you information. So thank you for the attention today. A quick little overview of the agenda for today. I wanted to just touch on who we are as a business, which is strange when I'm doing a webinar for existing clients, but many of you have been on GP for a number of years and haven't maybe interacted with us recently in the last few years. So I just wanted to touch on that. Then we're going to talk about the elephant in the webinar, the end of life of GP, and sort of what that looks like, what is that timeline, and what can you do about it. We're also going to look at our commitment as a service organization to stay with our GP clients and make sure you're getting stellar service from Crestwood, and then providing you a roadmap to move to potentially other solutions if that's something you choose to do with us. We'll talk about those options that we have in the portfolio. Then we're going to hear from Michael about his experience in implementing Business Central and moving off of GP. And then we'll round out with questions and answers. And then a couple of our other coming webinars we'll talk about towards the end. So hopefully that sounds like a good agenda. And we'll get into it. So a little bit about Crestwood. If you haven't interacted with us recently, I thought it would be important just to touch on our ethos, who we are as a company. And at the end of the day, we exist ultimately because of our clients and our customers. We're very passionate about operating or taking businesses and giving them operational efficiency. That's our mission. And we do that through our world-class software, our business applications that help us take a company who's maybe dealing with manual processes, disconnected systems, and really adding integrated solutions to our clients. And we want to be the best at it. This is who we are as a business. This is what Crestwood is in terms of our core. And we're very, very passionate about that. Now, we do this through our values. You'll see here on the screen, we work smart, we have fun, and we deliver results. And at the end of the day, we could not do that without our team of experts. So we've got a slide here that's got the headshots of a number of our employees, but we're passionate about working smart, having integrity, speaking up, being honest, saying the right thing, and being curious, right? And this is who we are at our core. When we interview new employees who are coming in the door, we ask, do you have curiosity? Do you have aptitude? How hardworking are you? And then in a world of accounting software and ERP software, it could be kind of a boring industry in some regard, but we have a lot of fun with the solutions and the technologies that we deploy. We're constantly learning. We're excited about new technology. And we believe with that mindset, work that could be seen as difficult or very confusing is made light, through that attitude. And so we're always looking for talent who has that mindset. And the people who have been at Crestwood for 20 or 15 years all have that mindset, which is why they're here. And then ultimately, we're about delivering results. So when our clients engage us, whether it's with Dynamics GP or Dynamics 365 Business Central or Acumatica, we want to make sure we're delivering based on your expectations. We're collaborating with you to deliver a turnkey solution for our clients. So this is who we are as a business. If you interact with somebody at Crestwood and you're like, hey, that doesn't align with what Jason was saying on the webinar, email me. I hope that doesn't happen, and I don't think it will, but this is really, really important to us as an organization. Now, I know today is a webinar about Dynamics GP, but it is important for you to know that Crestwood has evolved since we started 26 years ago. When we first broke into the ERP industry, we basically sold Dynamics GP. It was one solution that we basically worked with our clients on, and it worked well. But over the years, and I would say within the last 10 years, we have evolved as an organization because we saw the business climate changing, and we wanted to make sure that we were providing solid solutions to our clients. So you're going to see here on the screen, Dynamics 365 Business Central. This is Microsoft's heir apparent to Dynamics GP. It's a cloud-based ERP that was born in the cloud. It works with a lot of the Microsoft tech stack, and it's a really great solution. You'll see below it, Acumatica. Acumatica is also another fully integrated cloud ERP. It's based on a lot of Microsoft technology underneath the covers, but it's an independent company of Microsoft. Then we have Microsoft Dynamics 365, which is more of like the CRM and some of the rest of the tech stack that aligns well with Business Central. And below it, we have the Power Platform. The Power Platform is basically a set of tools that Microsoft has enabled to work with a lot of their technology stack. So, if you think of Power BI, Power Automate, which used to be called Microsoft Flow, there's something called Power Apps, where you can build your own kind of custom apps, or Power Pages, which is really more of website development. But the Power Platform, it works with the rest of the Microsoft tech stack, and it integrates with Business Central and Acumatica, which is really important. You may have heard over the last year, Microsoft partnered with OpenAI, which is the company that wrote the ChatGPT model. And they built a product called Copilot that integrates with most of their technology stack. It's sort of I think it's more like Copilots, because Copilot works with Teams, Outlook, Excel, PowerPoint, Word. It is very helpful when you're trying to be more efficient as a business user. We use we use Copilot internally as a firm, and we have seen huge results as our teams are organizing meetings, recording notes, documenting changes to the client system. Copilot helps us do that really well, and it's secured with an enterprise agreement with Microsoft, so that data is in-house and it's not feeding the larger language model that typically the public ChatGPT options are using. And then there's Microsoft Azure. We have the Crestwood Cloud, which is basically what we use to host a lot of our clients' ERP systems, whether it's Acumatica or Business Central or GP. We use Microsoft Azure underneath the hood to make sure that our clients' environments are backed up, they're secure, and they're safe. So hopefully this is a little bit of a primer on our tech stack from a Crestwood perspective. But no, we're not just a one-trick pony. We have multiple technologies that we use and that we're experts in as a firm that help us really deliver those results and those operational efficiencies for our clients and customers. So let's get to the elephant in the webinar. We are here today to talk about the Dynamics GP end of life. And you may have heard this a few months back when Microsoft made the official announcement. Of course, it wasn't the first time they announced the end of life of GP. There were previous years that they had mentioned it, but then they walked it back. But we believe this time Microsoft is serious about transitioning Dynamics GP clients onto more of their cloud ERP options. So now the good news is it's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not even necessarily going to happen next year. You have a roadmap, which this slide kind of indicates. I did a calculation. So we have 1,754 days till September of 2029 for the folks who are on GP that will reach that real end of life in terms of the product support, the enhancements, the regulatory updates. So the good news is, yes, Microsoft has indicated that they will not be creating new features or updating things for 1099s or payroll, but that is years out. So the good news is if you're on the webinar, you have a lot of time to build your plan to potentially transition off of GP, and you don't have to do it right away. So I did want to, with this slide, ask two questions for you to kind of think about as we're working through the webinar today. Number one, are you doing an annual upgrade to stay current on the modern life cycle? Now, you may say, what is the modern life cycle? Many of you, hopefully you know your version of GP, but you'll see over here on the slide that there used to be what they called the fixed life cycle release. And this was basically like the major versions of Dynamics GP. But with the most recent releases, and when you do an upgrade, you would move into the modern life cycle, which is not tracked by versions per se, like the major releases like R1 and R2. But essentially, it's the same thing. You're getting updated security patches. You're getting those regulatory changes that may happen with the tax agencies apply to your environment. So if you aren't updating your GP environment, it's important to do so to move into this modern life cycle so you can continue to get access to those updates. The second question is your enhancement plan current? And that's what we call EP in our world. And that's essentially that annual fee that Microsoft charges to give you access to those updates. Now, I wish every client of ours was current, but that's not the case, and that's okay. Some people didn't see value in paying that fee, but it does expose you. The further back you get in terms of your version, the more exposure from a risk, from a hacking perspective that could occur. And so it's important, if you're going to stay on GP, to keep yourself as current as possible to protect yourself as an organization. So this is my elephant in the webinar slide. Hopefully this isn't new to you. I have some more details on the end of life and some various dates that are on the calendar that we can talk through today. But if you don't know, make sure you look in your GP environment to understand the version you're on when you last upgraded, because that's important. Now, as we talked about in our agenda, we are committed at Crestwood to supporting our GP clients. You'll see here, and you may have seen that on LinkedIn, through other webinars or newsletters that we put out. We will support our clients through 2031 and beyond. The and beyond part is really, we don't know right that far into the future where GP will be. But we are committed to our clients. Yes, GP has issues in terms of technology. It is not current, but we stand by our clients, which means we'll have long-term support. We have our support portal. We have our support desk. Strong resources who know GP, who can help field your questions and help get answers so you can continue to operate as a business. We do have a strong consulting team on Dynamics GP. Brandon, Mike, Letha, Pam, folks who you may interacted with are here to help and support you, for the long term if you should decide to stay on GP. And they will provide their expertise. We'll be at the forefront of Microsoft's changes with GP as they come out, and we will bring those to you as our clients. We also have, cost-effective solutions, things like ISVs that are still prevalent in the GP space. We will bring those forward and, through the CSM team, help you get the most out of your investment from a GP perspective. And ultimately, we want you future-proofed as a business. And that means potentially looking at moving to something new as that time is appropriate. So certainly we are here for you from a GP perspective. We will advise you as changes are coming and make sure you feel supported and that you can sleep at night, because I know there is some stress going on with some of the announcements from Microsoft. Now, the first slide here, as it relates to sort of the webinar today, is if you're planning on staying, right? We want to make sure that if you're staying on GP for the next year or the next 6 months or the next few years even, that you're doing that well. And this goes back to that image that we looked at in terms of the timeline. We need to make sure that you're in the modern life cycle and you're on an upgrade cadence. We recommend you doing an upgrade at least once a year. That makes sure you get those updates, that the environment is safe, and that you're protected. So if you're not there, I think that's something that is prudent, and I would advise that strongly. Secondarily, when you look at your GP environment, it's important that you maintain health. Okay, and this is sort of a generic word, but I've tried to list some specific bullet points. We know with GP, especially with clients who are using it for a number of years, you have multiple databases. You might have years of history that you might archive. You have vendor masters, customer masters, and sometimes as an organization has evolved over the years, there are records that are orphaned or changes that you've made, and the data starts to get a little bit disrupted in that process. So I like to say garbage in, garbage out. There's opportunities through our team to help you clean up your data. And if you look at point number 3, if you're planning to transition, it's important to get the data in a way where it's organized, it's extracted out of the system, and it's ready to be implemented into a new system and migrated. So we really think of the data as your data ultimately, but we want to make sure that it's clean and healthy. Also, for organizations who have been on GP for a while, there's been turnover from a staff perspective. Business models have changed and evolved, and potentially when you implemented GP, it was appropriate, but now it's not serving the business like it should. And that's where we have our BPRs, our business process reviews, where we can bring in our consulting team. We can look at how you're using the system and see if you're leveraging the most up-to-date features and capabilities that ultimately will provide benefit to the business. And that's something that we think is important. It can be financial reporting. It can be things like automation and workflow, which was introduced kind of later in the most recent years. GP can email customers and vendors, and it's like that capability might not even be set up in your environment. And that's something we can kind of audit through this BPR process to make sure you're using GP to its fullest. Also, this is a big one, and it might feel a little self-serving, but it's very important that you have your environment protected. Now, I know there's a lot of clients on this call, and there's a spectrum of data hosting. Some of you may be hosting it in-house on premise. Others may be hosting through a third-party provider. And some are hosted on what we call the Crestwood Cloud. There have been over the years, just broadly in the Microsoft GP space, there have been instances where people have been phished, right? So people will send an email pretending to be somebody that they're not. An employee clicks the email, their credentials are hacked, and then people have actually taken over like a GP environment and basically threaten to delete the environment or to expose their customer list unless you pay a fee, right? And so this is something that is important, that you have sufficient backups with your GP environment, that those backups are off premise, hopefully, depending on where you are geographically. If there's a catastrophe or a hurricane, which we saw in Florida this year, that those backups are safe and secure. So if you were to be hacked, that the hacker couldn't get access to those. So I do think the Crestwood Cloud in this example is really important. Ben Borger is our director of our cloud services. And he has a number, I think roughly around 70 or 80 of our GP clients are on the Crestwood Cloud. We provide dual factor authentication, IP address restriction, so people from overseas can't access the environment. We do state-of-the-art backups with Azure Recovery Vault. There's something called the immutable vault that you cannot delete, and so these hackers are very clever. And we have thought a lot about this, and we do have 24/7 support, and it goes well beyond that with remote access, elastic storage. So if you're planning on staying on GP, but you think maybe we're not doing the hosting the best, I think you need to talk to Ben and our team from that perspective, so that environment is safe and secure. And then finally, looking at the ISVs that you're using, many of the ISVs that have been in the GP space are here for the long haul. Some of them have transitioned away to other products, but there are some exciting solutions, whether it's AP automation, financial reporting, that will shore up maybe some of the gaps that GP provides, or that GP has out of the box. And you can look to some ISVs to help you stay on GP for a little bit longer. And then finally, we look at the transition plan, right? We have to look at the data and the migration of that data to the new solution that you might implement. We need to understand, if you're going to look at a product that Crestwood represents, is it a functional fit? And we have two really strong solution architects, Jason McCauley on Dynamics 365 Business Central and Lori Bolsinger on the Acumatica side. This is all they do, is they look at your business, your requirements, your needs, and they say, is Business Central or is Acumatica a fit for the business? And we'll be objective from that perspective. We also have experience with other solutions that we don't represent. You've heard of Sage Intacct, Oracle NetSuite, Odoo, other mid-market solutions that might be competitors to GP, and we'll give you our opinion on them, good, bad, or indifferent. And we're happy to provide that expertise. And we really try to be more system agnostic from that perspective. And we look at the business needs to determine what would fit. And then we can help with timeline, budget. What does it take to get off of GP and move to something new? It's not an easy button. You don't just press it, or you don't just stick the disk in the drive, and it just lights up. We recognize that it's an investment from your side to potentially move to something new, and we can help you with that and what that would entail. And you can see here our practice team, this little image down below. And every practice that we have at Crestwood has a director, project managers, functional and technical developers, technical consultants, and then we have our client success managers. So likely, if you're on this call, either Nick, Heather, or Julie is your CSM. And I would just say, involve them. This is what they do day in and day out. They can help you as you're looking to upgrade GP. They can help you as you're considering an ISV. What's been Crestwood's experience with that ISV, and we can bring options to the table from that perspective. By the way, this is a non-billable resource that we at Crestwood commit to our clients to make sure you're getting the most out of your investment. So you don't see a timesheet from Nick or from Julie or from Heather. Their job is to understand the solution that you're on, the ISVs, the options that are available to you, and to provide expertise, and then plug in our team as needed. So if you don't leverage them, I would encourage you to do so. They're all very sharp. They know what they're doing, and they can help you as you're building that transition plan. Okay, so hopefully, we're understanding the timeline. as it relates to Microsoft and the end of life. We've established that there is time. We've established if you're going to stay, there's things you can do to make sure the environment is leveraged properly. But what if you're considering changing? Why should you consider changing? And that brings me to my next slide. So as I said earlier, there are some more details here, right? We've established that September of 2029 is the end of life of GP, which means we will not get additional product enhancements. We won't get those tax updates, the service packs, the technical support from Microsoft. They do have something called extended support, which is much more limited for additional years. But that's really, in my mind, September of 29 is really when you need to be off of GP. There's also this idea that there will be no new perpetual sales, right? Which is actually the date that's the nearest, April of next year. Now, you might be asking yourself, like, well, why would somebody be buying GP when they know it's going away? But GP is a workhorse and it's a good system. And there's a number of our clients and people in the marketplace who know it like the back of their hand. So we see sometimes an organization that acquires a company and they might acquire a new GP license. Maybe somebody leaves an organization and they go to a new company and they want to implement GP. That has happened, less and less recently, but it was still happening. So Microsoft has said, hey, coming this April, no new sales on the perpetual license. Then in April of 26, we're going to have no more subscription sales of GP. Now, not many of you are not on a subscription with GP, but they do have like a monthly fee that you can pay. That's a little bit more of a subscription model. But it is kind of a long-term risk if you think about your business and your plans to really start to understand where you're going as it relates to a new solution. Also, you really don't have a lot of technical advantages while you're on GP. Things like APIs, which is how most systems talk to each other. Browser technology, which is how you can interact with the modern cloud ERP systems, whether you're on Google Chrome or Firefox or Microsoft Edge, right? Many people are using the browser to work in a business, and the modern ERPs do that very well. And so GP kind of lacks that capability. And it's hard to have GP talk to other systems. Now, there are some third-party iPaaS solutions like E1. Integration Manager from Microsoft is another capability there, but it is not as pure as the cloud-based solutions that are out there. And so with that being said, at the end of the day, we have found that GP is difficult to collaborate with, whether it's internally or externally with other solutions. And so we think, when you move to a cloud-based solution, you have so much more opportunity to sell online, to interact with members, via the browser or via, Outlook, for example. There's additional capabilities that these solutions bring to give you more efficiency as an operation. And so these are, at least at a high level, why we think considering a change is important and to start to build that plan. Now, the good news is, from a Crestwood perspective, we saw this change coming even before Microsoft officially announced it. And we said, as a business, we need to be moving forward and have a place where we can sell solutions to new clients and to potentially migrate our existing clients who are on GP or SL to cloud-based solutions. So we have selected, after carefully evaluating the market, we typically focus in the mid-market, right? So not your tier one solutions, but that mid to small and medium-sized businesses. And we have picked two solutions: Dynamics 365 Business Central, which we've talked about a little bit, and then Acumatica, which is another cloud-based ERP. These solutions ship out of the box with a lot of functionality in financials, distribution, manufacturing, project accounting for nonprofits and associations. They have mobile apps that are in the Apple and the Android, Google Play stores that you can use whether you're on the beach, at the home office, or in the office, right? A lot of the walls that GP does present because of its technology are eliminated or knocked down when you look at Business Central or Acumatica. So I thought I'd, for today, just spend a slide or two on each one of these solutions, if you're not familiar, to kind of prime you with a little bit more detail around these applications, where their strengths lie, maybe where their weaknesses are, so you can start to think about, would these be good options for us to look at? So my first slide here talks about Business Central. Now, you'll see here, this was launched in 2018, so it's relatively new, but because Microsoft really adapted this from a solution called Dynamics NAV or NAV, they have hit the road and they've hit it running. So when it launched as product Madeira in 2018, it had very limited capabilities. We were an early adopter of it from a Crestwood perspective, but we really didn't see it as a viable solution for many of our GP clients who are using a lot of functionality in the application. It just didn't have the functionality. But over the first 2 to 3 years, it evolved. Microsoft invested heavily in engineering development, and it actually has passed Acumatica in terms of the number of companies using it. You'll see here there's 40,000 companies, but it is very deep in financials, supply chain. The manufacturing is strong. It has global finance. So if you're operating in different countries with intercompany, it has deep capabilities there, and it is very strong. It's also one really unique differentiator of Dynamics BC is its unified experience with the rest of the Microsoft tech stack. The best analogy I can give here is if you think of your cell phone, and I'm an Apple user. I know this is a session on Microsoft GP, but I have an iPhone. My iPhone, when I bought an iPad, it works seamlessly with the iPad. It works with the Apple Watch. And Microsoft has kind of taken this methodology, and they have, with their technology stack, made Business Central interact really well with the M365 side. So Outlook, Excel, Word, Teams. Business Central is so integrated with these other business productivity tools that it's almost like one and the same. So if you haven't seen this in action, I strongly encourage you to get a demonstration of Business Central. You can be working in Outlook. A vendor can email you an invoice and you can log it right from Outlook. It can run through an approval cycle. You can see what that vendor balance is, and maybe you have open purchase orders with them. It's very, very integrated with the Microsoft tech stack, and that I think brings value because most of your employees are in Outlook or they're in Word or Excel, and to have that integration is helpful. So you're not having to like click around and open different applications. It almost acts like it's one and the same. Also, Business Central was a cloud-first solution. So it works with all the major browsers. It has security. It works with the admin console of M365. So it really works well. And yes, AppSource, which is the marketplace for Business Central, has over like 3,000 integrated apps or ISVs. But a lot of our clients don't have to go out to an ISV like they did with GP because there's so much capability in the solution out of the box. There are still times where you do need to do that, whether it's with credit card processing. We use a group called Century Business Solutions in a lot of instances, or other groups, or payroll, for example. ADP has a strong integration with Business Central, amongst others. And there's a great opportunity to leverage ISVs where it makes sense. And we're really excited about that, but there's a lot of functionality out of the box. And of course, it scales and it updates. So I talked about at the top of this call, making sure you do your upgrade with GP at least once a year. Well, in the world of Business Central, 2 major releases are coming out a year, and it can actually be applied to your environment without that sort of rigorous testing and processing that you would typically see in the GP world. No, it's not necessarily automatic, especially if you have integrations. You still get a sandbox and you still can test, which we advise, but it comes much more seamlessly in Business Central because of the cloud architecture and the way they've built the application. So that's a little bit of a primer on Business Central. I do have one other slide. This was just announced in October. Forbes actually looked at the mid-market ERP solutions, and they voted Business Central their best overall. So it's a nice little accolade from a Business Central perspective from Forbes. But you can see here that the reasons that they listed, many of these I've touched on already, but it's a versatile application. It has a ability to be deployed in flexible ways. So you don't necessarily have to have Microsoft host it, but 90, I think 5% of our clients are doing so. It does have key features in the warehouse and reporting. And you can get a trial, which we can help you with. You get dual rights access if you're an enhancement customer, annual enhancement customer on GP. They actually give you favorable pricing on Business Central as well. So it's pretty exciting from that perspective. And I wanted to call that out just to say, hey, people in the industry are recognizing Business Central as a strong upgrade from Dynamics GP. Now, a little bit about Acumatica. Now, they're a little bit more kind of niched in what we call industry editions. So you'll see here distribution, manufacturing, construction, field service, professional services. So they have, I would say, maybe deeper functionality in certain industries, but they don't have quite the same integration to the Microsoft tech stack that we see with Business Central. They were also born in the cloud, and they have been the fastest growing cloud ERP solution provider for the last 8 years. So that's an exciting world for us. We've been with Acumatica really since the beginning. We've been their partner of the year for several years. We have a deep team in some of these industry editions. And one of the greatest strengths of Crestwood as it relates to our Acumatica practice is our development team. We have developers who work in what they call the XRP platform. Essentially, it allows you to build out Acumatica in the framework, so the screens look and feel like Acumatica, but really we've developed those for some of our clients who have had to go outside of the functionality that Acumatica provides out of the box. But one thing that's unique about Acumatica, and I included it here, is their customer bill of rights. So there's a lot of competitors, I won't mention them, that are used to kind of selling their solution at a discount to get their foot in the door, and then they, over 2 to 3 years, they dramatically increase the price. They maybe oversell the solution and then underdeliver from a services perspective, which is unfortunate. So Acumatica has said, hey, this is not right. The ERP industry is fraught with challenges in terms of implementations. It's a lot of work to get a client live on both the VAR side and the client side. And they said, hey, we want to be transparent. We want to give customers control of their data, so you're not locked in, and once you're on the subscription, you can't go anywhere. What's unique about Acumatica is they actually provide unlimited users, which means you can give a user a name and a password to everybody in the organization, and then you restrict them from a security perspective. And then you get charged based on consumption rather than by the named users, which is very different. But they've been a good publisher, and they've stood by this Bill of Rights. It's evolved over the years, but it's a solid company and a good group to work with. You can see they were started in 2010, and they have about 20,000 companies live and running in Acumatica. All right, and then this is kind of some of the awards that Acumatica has received. Whether it's in the Gartner Magic Quadrant, Gartner is a good group, or the G2, which is really the users. You'll see they rank very highly as an organization. And you can see they are in typically like that leader quadrant in terms of the functionality, and the usability is a huge one from an Acumatica perspective. So that's a little bit about the solutions that we represent as you're considering transitioning from GP to another solution and you're building that plan. I'm excited to talk about the next little segment we have here, which is a client success story. We believe, again, in transparency from a Crestwood perspective. And so we brought a client, Advanced Plastic Corp, who actually, looked at the beginning of this year, and they said, hey, we're on GP. We're ready to make a move. And they actually implemented Business Central, just recently went live, I think around November, October timeframe. So I'm excited to introduce Michael Schillinger, the COO of Advanced Plastic Corp. We've got a couple questions for Michael. He's going to kind of give you his side of it. and hopefully you can learn from his experience. And that's really key. When you're going through an implementation, ask questions, about what you went through, and learning from other folks who have been through this process is important. So, Michael, thank you for joining us. And I would love to kind of turn the microphone over to you and kind of give you a little bit of opportunity to talk about Advanced Plastic Corp, a little bit about the business, and a little bit of your history, and then we'll get into some of the detailed questions.
Excellent. Jason, Chloe, thank you guys for having me on today. I really appreciate it. Advanced Plastic, we're in plastic extrusion manufacturing. We're in the northwest side of Chicago. Just look at the questions here. It makes us unique. We've been in business since 1981, and we've got a lot of longevity in our employees, which kind of leads me to the next thing. We're a lot of bits set in our ways, and like we've been on Great Plains on GP for since like 07, 08 with Crestwood actually. They've been a great provider, and we've kind of had a long relationship with them. But the move to Business Central, I was telling Jason yesterday, we are kind of going through this. I got the letter from them that said, hey, by the way, we're going to be sunsetting Great Plains at some point. And it was kind of like, oh, here we go. It's going to be that. It's that good motivator, kind of get you out of your comfort zone. And in a previous life, I was IT. So like it was kind of a natural it was a natural transition. It was I know that we've got a lot of proprietary software packages that we're using internally that are antiquated, and to say that we've been with some of the software that we've got in-house. I know it's like when you're the last guy in the party and the lights are getting turned off, and I really didn't want to be there as an organization with GP. So we started the conversation, I would say, probably going on a year ago, just kind of like, hey, what's involved? Like, what are we looking at? Crestwood put together a nice demo. Honestly, the bells and whistles were amazing. I ain't gonna lie, it was a great sales job, so that was good. It was a full ERP solution. It answered all the questions I was looking for. I wanted to get all of everything from like scheduling to warehousing to shipping to finance. I wanted to get it all on there. I basically said, give me it all. And it was great. They put together a proposal. As we moved into actually where the rubber met the road, early on in the year, I realized a couple of things. One, me and my team, we bit off a little bit more than we could chew, to move an organization completely from everything you've been using since like literally like 2000, and like on the custom software all the way to Great Plains. I think we started probably like 07, 08 with Great Plains. To move that like in one fell swoop was a little bit much. So I made the kind of the tough executive decision to just kind of scale back, and wanted to move just the finance stuff, which was heavily entrenched in Great Plains. Just like, let's move that over to Business Central. And I thought it was going to be an apples to apples approach. I thought it was going to be, hey, it's great. It's Microsoft. It's Great Plains. This is great. We've got Microsoft. It's Business Central. No big deal. 1-to-1. That had a few challenges too. We had a few come to Jesus moments. Like, listen, it's not exactly like it's a purchase product. They're still working on they're still working on it. They're still growing it. But I can say right now, sitting on the other side of the fence, that it's been a worthwhile endeavor. Some of the we've had we made the move right at the end of our fiscal year, and there's been we've to put it simply, we've needed some data and some reporting, like to basically kind of close our books right away, and we've been seeing that We've gotten the reporting. It was a bit of a scramble after. There's always the with any software migration project or any kind of software implementation, there's always the bumps in the road. So just be ready for it. One of the things we were talking about yesterday was for better or worse, I think the one thing I think I got right on this was putting together uh, the right team on our side. And my gals, Jill and Laura, have been key. It's basically it's our finance team, getting them involved day one. Actually, I'm going to say day zero. Like, hey, this is what we're thinking about. This is what I'm thinking about doing. They called me crazy, and they said, are you sure you really want to do this? And of course, that's what I do. The other side is our accounting team is external, and generally speaking, I think accountants get thrown stuff at the end, and it's like, here, fix this, this ball of stuff that I created and make it right. And I decided to involve them at ground zero, and they were with us. We had regular meetings. They were absolutely one of the team, one of the family. We worked around everybody's schedule. We worked around vacations. We worked around um, other projects. Do you spend a little bit more doing that? Yeah. Do you get more out of it right now? I'm gonna tell you, yeah, absolutely. Because we with our accountants, Carmen and Agnes, I know, like, it's been easy to answer like what they're going through, and let's say, like, why they're working on getting some year-end numbers together. It's like, I know they've been in the trenches with us during the implementation. And the big thing is, I know that you always get, when you're starting something new, there's always a lot of cheerleaders. Everybody wants something new. Everybody wants something shiny, but you have to ask the tough questions. Are you are you willing to, like, dig in and do it? And that's when if it's take a moment, think about it. And there was a lot there was folks on my team that they wanted it in their heart, but they really just couldn't dedicate the bandwidth to doing it. So that's why I scaled things down, not permanently, but just right now. Let's get the data over there. Let's get our core systems over there. Let's make that happen. And then let's get to steady state. Let's get it, put the car cruise at 55, get used to it, and then then of course I'll jam the gas somewhere in the middle, and then we'll add more stuff to it. But for right now, I wanted to get us moving, and we're within, honestly, a week or two, we were actually we're getting the reports we need. And my director of operations, she was seeing some reports she quickly, and she's got a pulse on a near day-to-day of where the finances are at. And that's, honestly, it was something we couldn't really make it happen in Great Place, whether either from a limitation on our side and what we use the software for, whatever that be. It's just we didn't have the drill down ability that we have now. So, guys, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. That was really nice to see that it was kind of something that bared fruit right away.
Yeah. Yeah. Jill was on our call yesterday, and she said, yeah, I couldn't in GP with Management Reporter drill down in the financial reporting. And I got that on day one in Business Central. That was what was cool to hear. Now, you also brought up a good point, though. Like, hey, initially you set out to maybe do more, but you scaled it back, and you said, hey, let's get it live and get comfortable. We call that a phased approach. Of course, that's
Right.
like our industry speak, but like that makes sense. And I think Business Central is primed for that. You might start with the financials, move into the warehouse and more the production side, and there's great ISVs and solutions for that when you're ready for it. So I think for people on this call, you don't have to do it all at once. As Michael said, hey, like it's a lot of work, on both sides, and you've got to be prepared for that. But that's kind of goes back to that planning to make sure you're ready to go. So I love that. Yeah, appreciate you sharing your experience, Michael. Anything
Absolutely.
else to add before we keep rolling through here?
It's great to do the planning all the way through. Ask yourself where you really ultimately want to end up, and I think it helps you kind of frame. It'll help you frame those phases. If you end up going down the same road I did, you bite off a few more than you want. That's fine. It's great to know what's out there in the marketplace, and there's a lot of we found we've been asked from our customers for some other plugins like EDI and whatnot, and Business Central is ready for that. Um, I needed a cloud-based solution, and it's the one thing that's really helped us has been with Great Plains. We were locked into just a couple seats, a couple user licenses, and it was definitely creating a challenge of who was logged in, who wasn't. I I can't tell you how many times I came back and apologized for kicking somebody off of a session. So the web part of this and the user access is great. Um, just I guess if you're still on GP, just get your I had my list of I'm sorry's ready to go, even when they were in the middle of entering, blowing away a few hours of work, because I just decided to close their session and say, without saving. But no, it's been good so far. It's been really
Awesome.
nice. So far so good.
Awesome. Well, appreciate you sharing your perspective, and I'm sure if there's questions too, and you might be hanging out here in the Q&A, but
You bet.
yeah, if you have questions for Michael, I'm sure Chloe can work through that and get you in touch with him. So appreciate you sharing that experience, and I love the fact that you don't have to share a user anymore. That's a victory in
It's
and
kind of
itself.
nice. Yes.
So I know we're close to time here, and I only have one or two more slides. Well, you're asking maybe, okay, we know we've got to move away from GP. There's a lot of products out there. Why should we choose Crestwood, right? And I hope I've kind of hit a couple of those points, and that we've selected what we believe are the best two solutions in the mid market. But we have experience and expertise beyond GP, and frankly, like this is who we have been as an organization for the last 10 years in Business Central, more recently because it's newer, and then in Acumatica. So you can see we're a solution partner with Microsoft in business applications, which is a certification that we carry to basically sell Business Central and some of the technology around BC. We also have our modern work specialization. And on the Acumatica side, we're in the President's Club, gold certified, and have MVPs and certified folks on that side of the house. But we're in touch with these two publishers. We've been doing this a very long time, and we've migrated clients successfully, many clients, to both of these applications. We have a nationwide team of over 70 employees who have deep expertise in these two applications. And I've said this earlier. It's like there are other solutions, and maybe depending on who you are, you should look at them. But we believe Business Central and Acumatica are two of the best in the mid market, and we would work to prove that out through demonstrations, through ISVs and whatnot. And I think we're a great provider there. Also, the fact that we have the Crestwood Cloud, we have M365. I mean, in the modern ERPs, again, it's not typical with GP, but in Business Central and Acumatica, they are working with Teams, with Power Automate, with Outlook, Excel, with in our depth there as a provider helps us really get alongside our clients and get our arms around the organization to make sure they're getting the most out of their investment. And so we have a turnkey approach. I jokingly say we're your one hand to shake or one throat to choke, depending on the day. But we want to be here for our clients, right? We want to have a holistic approach. We want to provide that operational efficiency with the technology that we represent. And we have that proven track record. So the last slide that I have is really how do we do it? What does an implementation look like? Because if you've been on GP, like Advanced Plastic, for a number of years, you haven't been through an implementation with Crestwood recently. And our implementation process has evolved. We call it the Crestwood way. And essentially, we took the old waterfall implementation methodology, and then we looked at what modern software development companies do in an agile approach, and we've blended the two together. We call it the Crestwood way. I won't bore you with it here, but the one thing that I think is important is the education, the blue little circle you see here. When we are implementing a new solution, we start, of course, with the project kickoff, but then we move to the education side of it, and we bring the user training and the education up front. So if you're going to implement Business Central or you're going to implement Acumatica, you need to understand what a posting group is. You need to understand what an item class is. And if we're speaking a different language than you are, we might make decisions in configuration that ultimately won't serve you well. So we bring that implementation education up front. We get you primed on the solution, you prime us on your business, and then we move through discovery, design, implementation, deployment, go live, and then post go live. So it's unique. We think it's a huge differentiator, and it's been very successful for our clients and hundreds of implementations. And that's a little bit of a teaser. But we're going to round it out here with the few minutes that we have left. We've got a little bit of a question and answer session, so I'll turn it over to Chloe. And then we can talk about our free assessment that we have, and then also our upcoming webinar for GP year-end for those of you who need to close out the year on GP. So Chloe, I'll turn it back over to you. Any questions?
Thank you. Yes, so thank you, Jason and Mike, for presenting. We do have a question in the chat. Jason, can you see it? It's from Scott.
Okay, yeah, I'm looking at it. So it says, for years, we've been advised to use VBA and modifier for GP customizations. VBA and GP will not run on server versions newer than 2016. That's a good question. I don't have that answer. Now, I know there's a few technical folks from a Crestwood perspective. So we got a thumbs up. So whether maybe Brandon, if you're on the call, or Mike Gordon, let's get the answer there. And that's correct. Okay, we've got Stephanie coming in. Beautiful, with the post from the community site. So yeah, it looks like that is the case. Yeah, we've had customers using VBA over the years. We have customers who have actually changed source code and dexterity in GP. And so that does present some restrictions, and that would potentially expose you. And I would say, looking at what those VBA customizations are doing, there might be an alternative for you, Scott. So I would say incorporate your CSM, and I'm happy to jump in, or we can get Jason McCauley involved from an architect perspective to say, let's look at the options to see if we can move that off of the VBA into something new. Appreciate the question.
Ready? I think we have a few. Let me see. Another question.
Yeah, we got one here. It says, what modules in Business Central? Okay, so this is a good question, and I think I know where it's going, so I'm going to be a little presumptive, but I'll talk a little bit about Business Central in the licensing. There's a standard essentials user, which is $70 per user per month. Now, existing GP clients who are on enhancement actually get a promotion to reduce that for a few years. But that standard essentials user comes with full GL, GLAPR, as we call it, GL, APAR, purchasing, distribution, about 70 modules, fixed assets, some project accounting and other things. Now, there isn't a more premium user for $100. That's when you need to introduce service management and manufacturing. And so that brings another 20 or so modules. But the core essentials user does give you purchasing GL. Now, here's a good one that you put in here, the payroll. There is no payroll out of the box with Business Central. But if you go to the AppSource store, you'll see that there are a number of certified payroll providers. I mentioned ADP on this call. They're a partner of Crestwood's as well, and they have an integration both to Business Central and Acumatica. So I know we're at a minute left. I like to finish these things on time and be respectful. I appreciate the time and the attention and the questions. Reach out to me. I'll make sure Chloe sends that in the post follow-up. If you have questions, I have had the pleasure of demoing both Business Central and Acumatica. Have been in the mid-market for a long time. And if you have questions, I'm here for you from that perspective. We do have a free assessment that we can run on your GP environment. It takes about 5 minutes. Chloe's going to put a link to that in the chat. The CSM will kind of give you an assessment of your capability or your opportunity to move off of GP to Business Central, for example. And we'll provide that as a no charge assessment. So you can start to get your ducks in a row from a migration perspective. And then here we go. If you don't have anything going on Thursday, December 12th, 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. Central, join Julie and Mike Gordon to talk about GP year-end processing and what you need to know. So I appreciate your time, your attention. Thank you for joining, and I look forward to the future conversation. Bye now.
Thank you, guys. Have a good rest of your day.